For 2 weeks in mid-July, the Bohemian Grove plays host to some of the most powerful men in the world. During this time, the men are entertained by a number of plays and bizarre ritualistic ceremonies, the most notable being the cremation of care. The cremation of care culminates in the casting away of one's cares, with the druidic burning of an effigy on an altar.
The very word secrecy is repugnant in a free and open society, and we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings. We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. Even today, there is little value in opposing the threat of a closed society by imitating its arbitrary restrictions. Even today, there is little value in ensuring the survival of our nation if our traditions do not survive with it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. And no official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, civilian or military, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed. No president should fear public scrutiny of his program, for from that scrutiny comes understanding, and from that understanding comes support or opposition, and both are necessary. I am not asking your newspapers to support an administration, but I am asking your help in the tremendous task of informing and alerting the American people.
The report is that the president is dead. The word we have is that he is dead, that he was shot by an assassin at the intersection of Elm and Houston Streets just as he was going into the underpass. The word we have is from a doctor on the staff of Parkland Hospital who says that it is true. He was in tears when he told me just a moment ago.
I don't know if the American people are aware, but President Kennedy, he took out the Federal Reserve notes, put in the silver certificate, and when he got assassinated, Lyndon B. Johnson put back in the Federal Reserve notes. Pay attention to what these gentlemen are talking about when they're saying that they have it all.
They didn't like what John F. Kennedy was doing, and we know what happened to him. And, the other presidents who essentially challenged the Federal Reserve. John F. Kennedy, he was doing a number of things which those who control the government did not like. They included printing currency and obstructing Israel's acquisition of the atomic bomb. And maybe he even wanted to get out of Vietnam. It looked that way. So he was doing things he wasn't supposed to do. Or he was not doing things that he was supposed to do.
The global banking cartel's central planning force The Federal Reserve is run by members of Bohemian Grove. Alan Greenspan was at Bohemian Grove 1 month before he was appointed as the Federal Reserve Chairman. Important political and business deals are discussed and established at the Bohemian Grove, which is a direct violation of law in most concerned countries.
Just returned from the Bilderberg West, which is some call it the Bohemian Grove. That's where they kill people. That's where they're alleged to sacrifice children at the Owl of Moloch. Oh yeah, it's true, but we don't know how many. Some say 1,000 over the period of 100 years, which is not inconceivable.
Because a lot of people don't even know what Bohemian Grove is. What is it? So it's kind of a who, what, where, who goes there, who does it affect? What do they actually do? There are questions about, are there all these rituals and sacrifices? We have a lot of evidence of certain things going on.
Former German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt, a frequent attendee of Bohemian Grove, once detailed the secret establishments that run the world. These include the Trilateral Commission, the Council on Foreign Relations, the Bilderberg Group and Bohemian Grove. He also described the Bohemian Grove as a great hideaway and a wonderful place to spend time with the Rockefellers, a place to discuss world government and steering society.
We have some evidence of some cover-ups of conspiracies and secret societies, and so we want to look at that and look at it from an objective perspective. What's really going on? What's the big deal? Is it a big deal? Is it just a rich man's country club? Are there actual crimes that have been committed or being committed there?
It is a billionaire boys club. I mean, they walk around nude. They've got hookers, sure. And they got some guys that are a little bit on the pink shade. They bring in a couple hundred of these guys so that they can bone them in the Grove.
Let's look at Northern California. You understand? Yeah. You know what's happened in San Francisco just gone. It's clear over. I know that, but it isn't just down in the ratty part of town. But the upper class in San Francisco is that way. The Bohemian Grove that I attend from time to time, the Easterners and the others that come there. But it is the most faggy goddamn thing you will ever imagine in San Francisco crowd, because it's just terrible. I mean, I never want to shake hands with anybody in San Francisco.
It is said that they sacrifice children at the foot of the Owl of Moloch. And you think, well, my God, it couldn't possibly be going on. I've been told that they're simply doing the rituals. They're not doing the real thing. They're not doing the real thing now, but you've heard.
Well, we do know when we have footage and other people have gone in there is a 40-foot owl that they do sacrifices to. Many people say it's an effigy, it's just a ritual, it's just kind of it's a spring break, let's get crazy kind of a thing, cremation of care. They say leave your cares behind. Others say that there actually have been real child sacrifices. I've heard a lot of people refer the owl as a Moloch, one of these Canaanite gods. Others, as I've done a little bit more research, relate that owl to other actual goddesses, Semiramis, going back to Samaria. Actually looking at Athena, who actually has an owl imagery. And so many other people have looked at this recently, and particularly very recently, looking at actually goddesses as perhaps...
Like Gaia?
That's a female
Gaia,
goddess.
The female goddess, but
Columbia.
It is the Owl of Moloch. If you go back into D.W. Griffin's films, you'll see them sacrificing children into the mouth of the Owl of Moloch. And this has been going on they've been going up on with this sacrifice of care ceremony to Baphomet, to their Lord Lucifer, for 100 years. This is not anything new, but people yet doubt it. We had Russia Today, RT, come up there and cover this story, in covering the connection between the Owl of Moloch, the sacrifice, the Bohemian Grove, and the Bilderbergs. Because if you take a look at the guest list, they're pretty much the same.
Who on this estate are committing crimes against this country and all countries of the world.
And from Backwood Deals, from Bohemian Grove, we'll bring you more. We'll tell you what dark secrets protesters have found out about this historic men's club. The news starts now. Now, Bohemian Grove is something that we've talked about a lot over the last few days. What's believed to have come from inside the gathering over the years we've talked about. But what about the protesters outside? They're a small group, at least this year, but their charges are hefty. They blame the government for everything from crime to conspiracy, and a group of them were there over the weekend to protest actions of the government and some of America's largest corporations. Protesters stood outside the gates of Bohemian Grove, where for more than 100 years, if you have been watching our coverage, some of the most powerful men in the world have gathered for an all-men's, exclusive, highly secret retreat. So, were these protesters' complaints heard by anyone aside from the trees that surround Bohemian Grove? Well, RT's Christine Frazao was there. She was outside the secret retreat too, so she found out. Here is what she found.
Smart meters, cell phone towers, any kind of radiation.
The toxification of everybody and everything.
Weather modification program.
We're having an event here to protest Bohemian Grove.
Those who stood guard at the gates of Bohemian Grove had high hopes that those attending the all-men's retreat would pay attention to their concerns.
I'm here at the Bohemian Grove event to protest against militarism and against imperialism. What's happening right behind me at this place and others like it, decisions are being made that affect all of us, yet the people in there answer to none of us.
Certainly they came to the right place as far as trying to reach the rich and powerful. The more than 100-year-old annual conference has been attended by everyone from Dick Cheney, Newt Gingrich, Henry Kissinger, and Thomas Keane, the man who 2 years after this photo was taken would head up the 9/11 Commission. Bohemian Grove is located on the outskirts of this tiny California town of Monterey. And for more than 30 years, protesters have also been coming through here to have their messages heard outside the gate. Their messages that have, over the last few years, changed immensely.
The oligarchy, the evilarchy as I call it, are trying to bring about a new world order. That means the abolition of all society as we now know it. Their plan is to reduce the population of the planet.
Population reduction, just one of many claims and concerns by those who attended this weekend's protests, blaming those inside. In the past, heads of major electric companies like Pacific Gas and Electric attended Bohemian Grove. A popular issue this year, smart meters, a new technology used by some electric companies that records and communicates electricity consumption.
We're referring to them as smart murder meters now because people are getting very, very sick.
Bernice Heisler says radiation from smart meters has poisoned her daughter.
She's been having severe pain, burning in her head above her ears like fires. She's had palpitations of the heart.
Those here say the disease is called Morgellons.
It's a new disease that is characterized and brought down from the skies on all of us. And what you do is you hold it to your skin and you'll see these opalescent luminous strands. And everybody has got this.
Some say the men attending Bohemian Grove should be charged with murder. Though there is no evidence of it, they say rituals that take place during the cremation of care ceremony involve symbolically sacrificing children.
The killing of children, whether ceremonial or in actuality, is a crime.
Some believe it actually happens.
There was an event and it was there, and that's where they terminated the life of this child for the purpose of granting even more power over this country by the Catholic Church.
I need direct evidence, you know.
Well, the evidence is the child is gone.
Yeah, there's a lot of children missing, and we can't just blame it all on the Bohemian Grovers.
As you can see, the tensions here are high, with arguments breaking out between protesters.
The arguments have become child sacrifice and Satan worship and really illegitimate claims, you know, really.
And these are the fireworks you probably knew after the cremation of care.
Down the road a bit, activist Mary Moore says she no longer attends the protests, even though she organized them for 31 years. And has an office filled with information collected from Bohemian Grove. She says the new generation of protesters have made the real issue of what goes on disappear.
There's no conspiracy happening up there. It's just rich and powerful men talking to each other, exchanging information that you and I aren't privy to.
Perhaps this is one point everyone agrees on.
95% of us are getting screwed at least 5 different ways while they're up there laughing their butts off with...
That what happens inside Bohemian Grove affects a large portion of the population. Though most have no idea this secret retreat even exists. In Monte Rio, California, Christine Frizzau, RT.
We're talking about Kissinger and former presidents of the United States. 5 presidents went to
Bohemian Grove. We have Reagan and Nixon actually went there together. We've got photos of them from many years back. Prior to becoming president, the discussion was that they actually discussed who will be president first. Both George Bushes have been there, George H.W. Bush, George W. Bush. The question is who is there lately, because it appears that that's a place where they actually select presidents. We do have evidence that the Manhattan Project back in 1942 was actually hatched there, leading to the atomic bomb, Hiroshima, Nagasaki.
We're at Bohemian Grove. This is 2,700 acres that was purchased way back in the 1800s. All the Republican presidents since 1923 have come here, together with a number of Democratic presidents. They have a 45-foot owl in there in which they do a sacrifice in front of. They use a human effigy. It's called a cremation of care, so they can knock out their conscience and go out there and rule the world any damn way they want. What we have here is, this is where the Manhattan Project was created, yes. They dropped the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, the 2 most Christian cities in all of Japan. They dropped the bomb about 3 months after the Japanese had asked for conditional surrender. I had a personal meeting with a general who said that his commander knew about the Japanese surrender. They delayed the end of the war. The reason that they dropped the bomb, or both bombs, was an experiment on human beings. This is after the Japanese had offered conditional surrender. They dropped the bomb, incinerating about 250,000 people.
They come there to make plans, and yes, the Manhattan Project was done there, and yes, they did drop the bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the war was over. Yes, the 2 most heavily populated Christian cities in all of Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And if they dropped one on Hiroshima, why the hell did they go out and do it again? I mean, this is the insanity of it all.
We know that the head of the Warren Commission, Earl Warren, was there prior to be appointed head of the Warren Commission.
The Warren Commission was massive cover-up. They killed a president. Somebody did. Somebody planned it. Somebody organized it. Was it done at the Bohemian Grove? 2,500 people go up there. I don't know how many are at the upper level. We're talking about the Kissingers and the Zbigniew Brzezinskis and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds.
If you've ever heard any of our call-in shows, you know that we have people that think about the conspiracy theories of people like you. You would be a poster child for these people because you have served on the board of the Council on Foreign Relations. You helped start the Trilateral Commission, and you've been to the Bilderberger groups.
Well, yes, I haven't done those for years, so that's partial redemption, I suppose. But otherwise, yes.
So what is belonging to all those groups? We talked about the Trilateral Commission when you were here in 1989. But what about the association with that? Are people too close in this world? People in business too close to the governments?
Well, you know, there is such a thing as insidious influence. And the question is, how does it operate? Does it involve bribery? And does it involve some sort of psychological domination of individuals? I don't believe in this notion of some sort of secret societies controlling people. But of course, in any political system, there are sort of over-the-table and under-the-table arrangements.
Well, we know a lot about the Bilderberg Group. It was officially founded in 1954 at the Bilderberg Hotel in the Netherlands, and that's why it gets its name, Club Bilderberg. But really, it was a meeting of what was left of the European financial elite, the German financial elite, the Krumps and others that had funded Hitler with the Anglo-American, British, U.S. elite, and so kind of a teaming up during the Marshall Plan of those two groups. And declassified U.S. Army documents that have been covered by major British and U.S. newspapers confirm that actually the Nazis, when they were losing in 1944, planned to put their money into offshore corporations to try to have a rebirth of the Fourth Reich, the Third Reich as a Fourth Reich, through a corporate system based around a European Union. And so it's on record that the Nazi Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, consort to the Queen Beatrix, actually set up the Bilderberg Group meeting officially in 1954, but it was set up really before that. And so it is an international group. Many of their minutes have been released, stolen by the press, but the Bilderberg Group has recently even given interviews. Etienne Davignon, the Viscount that is the chairman of it, admitting that they set up the European Union by stealth. So this is world domination by 130 of the richest royalty and financial oligarchs and industrial oligarchs of the world, who combine their forces together to overthrow democratic processes worldwide and to bring in a one world government run by private international banks that we will pay our fraudulent fake carbon taxes to.
Perry has been invited to attend the Bilderberg Conference. He'll speak to the conference on state-federal relations. The Bilderberg Conference is an unofficial, invitation-only conference of about 100 guests, and those guests include some of the most powerful people from the worlds of business, media, and politics.
There has been interest from the Swiss national press this year. Bilderberg, which is widely believed to support big government and economic consolidation, runs entirely contrary to the Swiss idea of independence, local government and neutrality.
Critics say Bilderberg only invites people from North America and Western Europe, and the conferences are closed to the public.
Because a small group of people are carving out the future of the world in Switzerland right now. But where is the mainstream media when it comes to covering the Bilderberg Group?
Bilderberg's defenders say the summits need to be closed so that people of influence can openly share ideas. The critics answer back that the conference's secrecy defeats the purpose of open democracy. And who's paying for the governor's trip to Turkey? Well, the governor's office confirms it's the Political Action Committee. Texans for Rick Perry.
Now I want to tell you what they're not talking about. An event that's going on right now that includes some of the top movers and shakers around the world. We are talking high-ranking politicians, European royalty, CEOs, central bankers, and the list goes on. More than 100 people, powerful people, meeting in Switzerland to discuss the global economy, the war in Libya, energy policy, and how they might shape the future. Things that will actually impact you personally. RT's Laura Emmett is in Switzerland and has more on the Bilderberg Group.
The exclusive ski resort of St. Moritz in June is perfect Bilderberg territory, out of season and, crucially, practically deserted. There are two hives of activity in town, though. One, the luxury hotel Souvretta, where around 130 of the world's most influential politicians, businessmen and sovereigns are meeting behind closed doors.
It's quite appalling. A Swiss news agency has just released some names of this year's attendees, and on the list is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, George Osborne. I would have thought that makes it news.
Other Bilderberg regulars include David Rockefeller, the editor-in-chief of The Economist magazine, the Greek finance minister and the president of the World Bank. They're all rumoured to be here this year, unlike another regular, former IMF chief Dominique Strauss-Kahn, on bail in New York for an alleged sex attack.
And it costs a lot of money to secure this private meeting of these people.
The agenda's secret, along with everything else, but Bilderbergers are believed to be deciding on who should replace their friend DSK at the top of the IMF. They're also concentrating on how to save the euro, which was, leaked agendas show, their brainchild.
We don't want to be in the EU, we don't want to be in the euro, but these are all the things that they actually created. The EU is a construct of the Bilderbergers. The euro is a construct of the Bilderbergers.
Have you heard about children being sacrificed before the Owl of Moloch?
I viewed Alex Jones' tape, and you could hear the screams. They seem to mimic sacrificing children before the owl. I don't know, personally, if children are actually sacrificed. I don't have direct evidence. I know that people have talked about this. But really, if you just pretend to do it and take part in pretending to do it, that's pretty bad.
I mean, obviously they get a thrill of killing or simulating the killing of children, sacrificing children to a satanic symbol.
And certainly there's a high in it for some people, and I suppose some of the people there have a drink and talk about it afterwards.
We're talking about ritual sacrifice.
Right.
Now, radio host Alex Jones is one of the outsiders who have infiltrated Bohemian Grove. He sneaked in back in 2000 and he filmed what he saw. You said you were going to get some intel for us on this year's gathering. Did you find anything out?
Yes, we did, and we're learning a lot more. I've talked to employees that work inside the Grove, and they said that George Herbert Walker Bush, Bush 41, did engage in a drum circle with some of the younger people that were there, some of the big computer company CEOs. George Herbert Walker Bush has done this in the last few years in a row, stripping down to his underwear late at night.
It's only hearsay that they take children, live children, and they sacrifice them before the Owl of Moloch. In its in history, we've seen this going on for 100 years. And I'm talking to people on the...
There's no evidence that there's evidence that they do ceremonies and rituals, but there's no evidence.
If you have a ritual killing of a child, you hear the screams, they sacrifice. They used to do this for real. They said, well, they don't really do it. They're not killing the children anymore. If a human being can find pleasure in tearing up a child, in killing it, and there's evidence of that in the Franklin cover-up.
Now, back in the 1980s, there was a scandal called the Franklin cover-up that involved some underage children being sexually abused by some very powerful men in Washington, D.C. There was, in fact, a front-page headline in the Washington Times: homosexual prostitution ring ensnares VIPs with Reagan and Bush is the headline, if you want to Google it. So one of the children that was involved in this case says that he was taken to the Bohemian Grove Elite Resort and sexually abused in just horrific ways, and the abuse was videotaped, and essentially it was a child pornography snuff film where the other child was killed, and this, he says, was videotaped. This kid later on took his lawyer to this place where he says this abuse occurred, and he drove him right to the front gates of the Bohemian Grove. Now, if you're familiar with the Bohemian Grove and the snuff film allegations and the human sacrifice using effigies and all that, then this is all common knowledge. But this took place before Alex Jones got the video, really before anybody knew about what it was that was going on in there. So this kid says that he was forced into this abuse and it was videotaped, and he took his lawyer, who was a former senator from Omaha, Nebraska, John DeCamp, to the front gates of the Bohemian Grove.
Some of the people inside have reported that some of the guests, not members, are Tom Cruise, Mark McGuire, people like that have been seen by some of the employees that we have contacts with. And we also know that on the Lakeside chat agenda, they're discussing how to expand the Arab Spring.
Now, the president has said that where we have some unique capabilities, he is willing to use those, and in fact, he has approved the use of armed predators. Regime change imposed from the outside, as we have seen in Iraq and in the Balkans, is incredibly difficult.
and basically have the West take over and overthrow many of the dictators that the West has been propping up. Really, it mirrors much of the agenda that our moles got out of Bilderberg 2011 when I sent my reporters to Switzerland.
I'm a filmmaker. I've done a lot of research on some conspiracy theories, and so I'm just looking at it right now. I came out here really just to take a few video clips and see what people are talking about. And I know that there's a lot of stuff that people will just say it's a conspiracy theory, therefore trying to minimize it and try to say or dismiss it.
Is it a conspiracy fact? I mean, are we at war? Is there a war against Islam, against Christianity, against the people? Do they want to reduce the population of the planet by 90%?
Well, one could extrapolate that, but they certainly don't seem to be trying to protect the people, the patients or the population.
Actually, quite the contrary.
They're planning the next war.
Oh! Police brutality! The whole world is watching! 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 The whole world is watching!
They're planning the next attack. They're planning the next meter or death dump.
Our next president.
There are people who say that the Illuminati or the Illuminazi, this evilarchy, makes their decisions for the presidency of the United States at the Grove. Have you heard this?
Well, I guess the presidents or the men are vetted there. They're surrounded by advisors who are telling them what to do all the time. They don't need to go out to California and in the redwoods to find people to tell them what to do. I'm sure that there are people who believe the president is the top of the heap, but the president isn't the top of the pyramid. He answers to those who control him. They didn't like what John F. Kennedy was doing, and we know what happened to him. And, the other presidents who essentially challenged the Federal Reserve.
Mr. Perry, another last question. We saw on the news that you attended the Bilderberg meeting. I'm just curious, what exactly goes on there that is so closed doors?
I have no idea. I was invited to come and speak, and that's what I told him. I said, I have no idea what's so secret about this. I talked about energy policy.
So you didn't stay there for the rest of their meeting? Or?
Oh, I heard probably, I don't know, a number of the speeches, but there wasn't anything. There was no conspiracy going on that I saw.
Is Texas Governor Rick Perry gay? Even though he tries to bat down the rumors, and there are a number of people who simply won't talk about it, the rumors do persist. They've been covered for quite a while now, but Mike Stark at the Stark Report has the latest information. Take a look at this. He says right here, as I began looking into this, I repeatedly heard rumors, detailed rumors of a past gay relationship between the governor and his former Secretary of State, Jeff Connor. A version of the story included Perry's wife, Anita, catching Connor and Perry in the act and screaming at him the next day from her office phone. The most common retelling has it that the governor was caught, struck a quick and expensive deal with his wife that allowed him to avoid an immediate trip to divorce court, and swore everyone involved to secrecy. I also learned of a new rumor making the rounds. Several sources told me they had heard that the governor is in a current gay relationship with one of the 2 male chefs that Perry keeps on staff.
Palin recently went on record saying that she supported a new investigation of 9/11. Do you also support a new investigation into 9/11?
No.
No? Are you aware that 6 of the commissioners support a new investigation?
There's your book.
No comment? No comment, Governor?
When I was in there, I did see some homosexual activity, but no intercourse, and I was trying to stay away from the crowds and hide out till nighttime. I was only inside about 5 hours on the date of one of the rituals. There's other reported rituals that go on there, but Vanity Fair did witness homosexual activity, and some other newspaper reporters that have made it in and been arrested also have witnessed it. And so there's a lot of homosexual orgies that go on there. And you've got not just myself saying this. In an interview with Harper's Magazine, Richard Nixon said that homosexual orgies go on there. And then after his death, Harper's actually released the recorded interview with Richard Nixon. I mean, he did this on record. It's just Harper's had never released the audio.
But it is the most faggot goddamn thing you will ever imagine on San Francisco crowd, because it's just terrible.
But Richard Nixon was an attendee, and he was photographed with Ronald Reagan and President Dwight D. Eisenhower there at the same table back in the 1960s, even before he became California governor. So it is a very bizarre place where the elite of the United States and of the Fortune 100 go and engage in bizarre homosexual orgies and druidic rituals. And former German Chancellor Helmut Schmidt, in his book Men and Powers, a political retrospective, bragged about how they are the New World Order. They're setting up the global government. They are bringing in this world government. And he said they have their own groves in Germany where they do rituals, but his favorite place to do rituals is the Bohemian Grove. So that's a book published by the former German Chancellor.
The American people are asking many questions about 9/11. It seems you would be able to answer a few of those questions. Your New World Order will fail.
Members of Bohemian Grove have included William Howard Taft, the United States President; Herbert Hoover, the United States President; Dwight D. Eisenhower, later became President; Ronald Reagan, later became President; Richard Nixon, later became President; George Herbert Walker Bush, later became President; Bill Clinton, later became President; George Walker Bush, later became President.
Mr. Perry claims there's no North American trade agreement. Your New World Order will fail. Many people are waking up, Governor.
Our concern is not what's going on inside of the Grove, but what's happening outside of the Grove with the people that are in here.
According to several reports, this is where the idea for the Manhattan Project was conceived back in 1942. It's also where every Republican president since the 60s has spent time before actually becoming the nominee.
We know for sure that Richard Nixon and Ronald Reagan sat down and had conversation about who was going to run for president when. And they made a deal.
That it has happened. My friend Ted Gunderson, who's not here, I'm speaking for him, former head of the FBI in Los Angeles, Dallas, and Memphis, he's got documentation that supports this. The killing of children.
Ed Weaver in Lincoln, Nebraska, called me. We have a problem here. We have a case that's breaking in Omaha. They're taking children out of orphanages, foster homes, and Boys Town, driving them to Sioux City, Iowa, 184 miles away, putting them on private jets and flying them to Washington, D.C. for sex orgies with congressmen and senators. The kids talked about satanic cult activity. They didn't say they were satanic cult, but there were humans in robes.
Owl of Bohemia, we beseech thee, grant us thy counsel. O great owl of Bohemia, we thank thee for thy adjuration.
Nude underneath the robes, chanting, candles, sacrificing animals and children and people, which is very common, by the way, In this country today, as a result of the work that I've done the last 28 years, I can tell you without any question there are 50 to 60,000 human sacrifices by the cults, satanic cults in this country every year. That was part of the Franklin cover-up case.
How about the Bilderbergers? Aren't they trying to straighten things out?
The Bilderbergers are part of the Illuminati, one world government. They have their secret meetings. What they say is going to happen in the future is what happens. It all dovetails into not only the Bilderbergers, but the Council on Foreign Relations, Trilateral Commission, Bohemian Grove, what have you.
Ted, there's so many good people in the FBI. Is, or will there ever be again a time when they might just bolt and try to flesh out the bad guys within the agency?
No, I don't think that time will come. There are a lot of good people in the FBI, the CIA, military intelligence and so forth, but the leaders of these agencies are the ones that are calling the shots and telling the others what to do, whether they like it or not. One of the areas that we really have not discussed is military intelligence. The Illuminati uses the military intelligence, which has been infiltrated, to do a lot of their dirty work, their assassinations, their surveillances.
Isn't that an oxymoron, military intelligence?
Yes. I've filed Freedom of Information Act request to the FBI. What few files they gave me, it's kind of interesting. The report came back that I was considered armed and dangerous. That's actually in an FBI report back in the 1980s. One of my sources telling me that he saw my CIA file, and it's the thickest file he's ever seen. So, you know, I'm sure that they're keeping track of me and you, Anthony.
Well, I'm happy to have you as my friend. Henry Kissinger, a member of the Council on Foreign Relations and in favor of world government, has said that military men are dumb, stupid animals to be used as pawns in the game of international chess. And shouldn't the men in the military be looking very suspiciously at Henry Kissinger and Rockefeller and this group? Because I think maybe the military men are dumb, stupid animals if they do not step aside from this activity where they're being sent to Afghanistan to protect the heroin traffic. I can't see any other reason for us being there, and Osama bin Laden, I think, has been dead for 3 or 4 or maybe 5 years, to the best of my knowledge.
I don't know about that, but I do know that Pat Tillman, the former professional football player with the Arizona Cardinals, he was going to expose the poppy fields in Afghanistan, and he had been in touch with an author to write a book about it.
Pat Tillman.
Pat Tillman, yeah.
Yes,
he was shot and killed with friendly fire, and the information came out later that he was shot in the head 3 times and he was actually assassinated.
All of the knowledge that I have with regards to Pat Tillman is that he was murdered. He was set up. They certainly didn't want this hero to come out and tell the American people that we were being betrayed in Afghanistan, and that the only reason that we could possibly be there was to continue the drug traffic, which has gone up 1,200%.
The poppy fields are in Afghanistan. Tillman was going to expose it. It's public knowledge. The Army said he died of friendly fire. He was actually shot in the head 3 times, and he was murdered because he was going to expose this operation in Afghanistan. He's not the only one that's been murdered. Gary Webb, who exposed the CIA drug operation coming into South Central L.A., they said he committed suicide. He was shot in the head twice. So you're going to shoot yourself once and then shoot yourself a second time to make sure you're dead?
Now, he was writing for the San Jose Mercury?
San Jose Mercury News. He wrote that and exposed the CIA drug operation, San Jose Mercury News. Gary Caradori, who was investigating the Nebraska Franklin cover-up case, he was blown out of the sky coming out of Chicago en route to Lincoln, Nebraska, with pictures of our presidents, according to my sources, of the United States, the Bush's family involved in sexual exploitation of children. This came out in an Australian newspaper also, by the way. A case in Nebraska that I worked back in the 1980s where they were flying children out of Omaha. Actually, they're driving them from Omaha to Sioux City, Iowa, 184 miles away, putting them on private jets, flying them to Washington, D.C. for sex orgies with congressmen, senators. A fellow named Rusty Nelson would take their picture. Then they would use that for blackmail, tell the congressmen, senators how to vote. It's kind of interesting because Rusty needed a life insurance policy of his own, So he put his own camera film in there every once in a while and take the pictures without them knowing about it. Because after every shoot, Larry King, not Larry King live on TV, but Larry King, head of the whole porno operation there in Omaha, and past president of the Franklin Savings and Loan, Larry would come around and take the film after each shoot. Well, Rusty put some film in there on the sly and had his own pictures. That's his life insurance policy. That's why Rusty's alive today, for that very reason. Rusty was asked to become involved in a sexual act by Larry King. He went out a motel bathroom window in order to avoid it, made his way back from Washington, D.C. to Nebraska, and went into hiding at his grandfather's farm that had been abandoned. And his mother was approached and contacted by the FBI. They asked where Rusty was, and she told them where he was, and they went out and talked to Rusty at the farm. He left. He came back sometime later, and the farm house had been demolished. It had bullet holes throughout the house. Only the FBI knew that farmhouse was there and that Rusty had hidden out there for a period of time. But Rusty was the official photographer of the group. He was contacted by Gary Caradori, who was the investigator for the Nebraska committee that was investigating this whole situation. So Rusty was in Phoenix. Gary located him and contacted him. They met in Chicago. And at that time, according to Rusty, he gave Gary Caradori pictures of the prominent president of the United States being involved in sexual acts. And it was Gary Caradori made the mistake of calling Senator Lawrence Schmidt and saying, "I have the smoking gun now." And he went in his private plane with his 11-year-old son. A short time out of Chicago, in the middle of the night, his plane was blasted out of the sky. A farmer saw the flame.
Well, wait a minute, you're saying he was murdered?
He was murdered. The farmer saw the plane explode, the explosion on the plane. The first person on the scene was the deputy sheriff. He started picking up these pictures, and the FBI came along and told the sheriff to keep his mouth shut, and they took the pictures from him. The back seat of the plane was never recovered. Gary Caradori's briefcase was never recovered. And the pictures were thrown about at the scene, as I said. Nothing ever came of that.
Well, Ted, you've been very
They
much...
They used this to frame the congressman senator, these pictures, and this was the smoking gun. And as a result of this, Gary Caradori was murdered along with his son. And Rusty Nilsson now, who had hidden these pictures around the country, he's still alive, fortunately, and he was smart enough to know that he needed this life insurance policy.
Ted, you were very much involved with the story that comes down from Kathy O'Brien, who told me, this is in Las Vegas, that she was a White House model, which means that she would perform sexual activities for the White House and the CIA. She said that she was taking on one of the clients that she was assigned to. It wasn't a man, it was a woman. I believe her name was, Hillary Clinton. She was taking on Hillary, and then there was a knock on the door, or the door opened, and it was Bill and with some guy, and they were a little bit drunk. She thought, well, she's going to have a menage a trois assigned for her. But they went in the other room with the guy. I asked about that, and I said, how was it? She says, pretty. But what do you think about that story?
Well, it doesn't surprise me. Kathy was, they call them presidential models. She was used along with a lady named Sue Ford, whose synonym was Bryce Taylor. Bryce wrote a book called Thanks for the Memories. She identified Ronnie Reagan, she identified Bob Hope, and a number of other prominent individuals as being involved in this type of activity. Of course, Kathy and Bryce ended up both exposing this.
He's talked to Kathy O'Brien, a White House model, and he's talked to Bryce Taylor, who's using another name, about what they do or what they've been asked to perform for the country, of course, for the president, for God and country. They've been asked to do a little action, give a little piece here and there for the Gipper. What do you think?
Well, I spent a lot of time with, particularly with Sue Ford, and Sue told me that her father, who ran a welding shop in the San Fernando Valley as a cover, and out of that, he had a porno operation. And a number of prominent people used to come by and pick up and buy his porno, including Robert Taylor, the famous actor of years ago. She told me that when she was like 16 years old, her father came into her bedroom and told her, "I'm going to have to give you away." They lived out in the country, in the rural area. She said that helicopters would come in, land, and they'd come and get her and put her on a helicopter, and she would fly off into the distance. And she was trained as a presidential model. They call them presidential models, to have sex with prominent individuals in order to gain information from them and also set them up and frame them. She wrote a book. She not only mentioned prominent politicians but also actors, and she identified some of those as Bob Hope is one of them, as a matter of fact. And she wrote a book called
Thanks for the Memories.
Thanks for the Memories, yeah. I spent a lot of time with Sue, synonym Bryce Taylor. And then Kathy O'Brien, I knew Kathy, and Mark. Mark, definitely CIA, by the way, and is definitely Kathy's handler. But they wrote a book. They kind of attacked me. As a matter of fact, Mark said, take Ted Gunderson, for example. He smiles, and yet bodies turn up all around him, meaning people are murdered.
This is the transformation of America. So, I mean, how can we believe any of the book?
Well, I have my personal opinion about Kathy and Mark. He's the one that told me that I saw your CIA file, and it's the thickest file I've ever seen. Well, now, the only person I know who could see a CIA file on me would be somebody in the CIA, right?
Absolutely.
Kathy and Sue never talked to me about the satanic movement per se. I think that they were basically isolated from that purposely and concentrated on setting up individuals. They taught her to have a photographic memory, so she could look at papers and read them real fast and then come out and tell her handler what the paper said and so forth. They were trained. They were highly trained in the MK Ultra mind control program.
If you go on the internet and you Google Bohemian Grove or go to YouTube, you'll see a lot of videos. You'll see people like Alex Jones. You'll see Mark Dice. You'll see several others who've done some videos and kind of snuck in and talked about it. But you won't see anything on the mainstream news. That's the question. Why is this thing so secret? I mean, they talk about the G8. They talk about meetings of Security Council of the United Nations. They talk about large meetings and protests, but there are a lot of protesters out there.
This is the Bohemian Grove. This is where some people come up to worship the Owl of Moloch. Oh, it's satanic? You're damned right it is. I mean, they take children to sacrifice them before the god of Moloch. This is Luciferian. Oh, no, it's not accidental. You know what a smart murder is, don't you? You don't? Well, it's where they conduct the murder and they get away with it. The people up here are getting away with it. They're getting away with murder. You are reading this thing right. You're putting it all together. You're putting all the bits and pieces together. What does the Bohemian Grove, what does this whole satanic thing have to do with understanding what these guys are doing?
They meet here secretly to devise such things as smart murders. And they are wrapping this around our necks. They're depopulating our world.
Right over here on the other side of this and right up there is like a plateau. And you go back a little bit inside this grove and there's a 40-foot owl. You've seen Alex Jones.
Yes, I've seen that.
Having the guts to come in here and to hear the screams.
Yes.
Of the children.
I've seen them carry a childlike object to the owl.
For the sacrifice.
That's what I understand.
And it's a cremation of care.
That's what I hear.
That's us free. You don't burn me once again. Not with these flames.
You're a Christian, I'm a Christian. How could anybody, if they knew what the Federal Reserve was all about, support this system which enslaves all of us, and if they knew that all of these guys met at all of the people from the evilarchy, the Kissingers, they meet here, the former presidents. What is your take? You're here. Is this not a symbol of some sort of satanic rituals? And what's your opinion?
If you are a Christian or know your word and read your Bible, then you will know that this is clearly satanic.
Smart murder. They get away with murder.
Yes.
And the people don't know what it's about.
Yes, in fact, even PG&E, who is deploying these meters on the people here in Northern California, have a care program. Not that I think that it is related to the care program here in Bohemian Grove, but they're putting on meters. They don't care about the health welfare of the people. They don't care about the fact that military documents reveal that the smart meters were devised intentionally to cause harm. The ringing of the ears, the sweats, the heart palpitations, the inability for people to think clearly and to articulate, the possible brain damage that this causes. It is all designed intentionally to cause harm for people. And my grandchildren are living amongst death to the greatest degree that I could never have imagined in my lifetime, with these death dumps that fly overhead, that these evildoers cause the rest of the world to put up with. The whole world is being surrounded with the tentacles of the smart meters on all the homes. The overhead aerial sprayings are occurring worldwide. People are getting sick everywhere. And people have to stop taking what these few hundred people are dishing out to us. We have to finally say, no, we're not going to allow you to make us sick. We refuse to die a slow death. We refuse to listen to the Ted Turners of the world openly at vineyards talking about cannibalism because there's going to be food shortages and water shortages. We refuse to be told that this is going to be our end. We are not going to sign up for the program that they seem to have felt that they are designing for us. They are not going to do this to us.
I'm a holistic physician. I'm an environmentalist. I'm just going to say it straight. I'm an environmentalist. I do believe in preserving the world's ecology. But here's a group of people who are under the guise of the Sierra Club and global warming, etc., are talking about sparing this planet change, yet they are the ones who own Monsanto, who are doing GMO and putting poisons on your food, depleting the soils. These are the same people who were talking about preserving the planet when they're absolutely destroying it. They have already unleashed probably the greatest environmental plague ever known to the planet, and that's genetically altered organisms.
We are not going to allow it. They cannot have their little meetings up here and create schemes in which to entangle all of our lives. We live in unbelievable times. It's unimaginable for the regular person on the street to even perceive what is coming out of this Bohemian Grove.
And for 2 weeks every July since the 1880s, they've been filled with some of the most wealthy and powerful men in the world. Many of them arrive on their corporate jets at the nearby Sonoma County Airport. Others arrive in fancy cars, which will fill the on-site parking lot. At its height, there is said to be more than 2,000 men who attend, and as you can imagine, they are well protected by a trove of police.
This is private property.
Yeah, I know. So we're out covering the protest, and we just wanted to see if there was anyone that could give us...
I would like you guys to get off the property, please.
There's no way we could just get an escort?
No, not at all, and I'll have the police come and arrest you if you don't leave, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Access is by invitation only, and most pay more than $15,000 to attend.
A lot of protesters outside talking about what goes on in there and protesting not just the possible things that they do behind closed doors and behind closed gates, because there's several layers of security. We've got highway patrol. I was stopped several times. If you don't hear from me, look for Bohemian Grove.
Listen, what he's talking about, we're talking about the guys that rule the damn world. I mean, somebody's doing it. The Bilderbergers, right? The Bohemian Grove people. They've got the owl in San Francisco reaching down with its talons into the world, the planet.
Yeah, the 40-foot owl at Bohemian Grove is made out of concrete and steel. And then there's the Bohemian Club, which is in San Francisco. Again, these are all male clubs. You don't hear a lot of protest. Why is it all male? Why can't women go. You know, not even Hillary Clinton can go.
It was reported in June of 2006 you attended a meeting in Ottawa, Canada, the Bilderberg Group. Can you comment on that? What's going on at the Bilderberg meeting, and what do you guys talk about up there?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, you do. I was reported you were up there, and people saw you up there. I just want to know what you guys talk about and meet about up there.
Sir, I don't know.
Why are they such top-secret meetings?
I have no idea what you're talking
Your
about.
husband went to a Bilderberg meeting, too. I'm just wondering. I'm not being rude or anything.
No,
I just want to know what happens at these
that.
meetings.
Well, since I wasn't there, I have no idea.
What do you want me to talk about? The Bohemian Club. As you say, the Bohemian Club? That's where all those rich Republicans go up and stand naked against redwood trees, right? I've never been to the Bohemian Club, but you ought to go. It'd be good for you. Get some fresh air.
I am delighted to be here in these new headquarters. I have been often to, I guess, the mothership in New York City, but it's good to have an outpost of the council right here down the street from the State Department. We get a lot of advice from the council, so this will mean I won't have as far to go to be told what we should be doing and how we should think about the future.
You mean you're talking about Hitler?
Well,
Hitler, yes.
I say Hillary Clinton.
I know what you say.
Although the question is, I believe Bill Clinton may have been there, and he's denied it, of course. It's up along the Russian River. It's 2,700 acres. Private campgrounds divided into several different cabins, so to speak. There are a lot of underground areas as well. We do have stories. If you want to look up something else, Franklin cover-up, look up Hunter S. Thompson and Bohemian Grove.
We're going to go through the magical pod. We're going towards the ocean, and a friend of mine actually put up the coin to make this thing. And here it is, the Pacific Ocean, the reality.
It is
the western
like
side
another
of the
reality.
world.
Because once you start looking into this, most people never heard of it. When you do look at it, you may hear a couple of rumors, you may hear a few stories, oh, it's no big deal. But then once you really look into it, it's like going through the rabbit hole. You know, there are deeper and deeper, darker and darker secrets. And that's why we're doing this documentary. Are there child sacrifices? Look up Franklin cover-up and the conspiracy of silence. These are some things that were done back in the 80s. Hunter S. Thompson was related to that as well. If you can look these up if the internet's still up as we speak, as this video comes up. There's some cover-ups that have happened.
Wait a minute, when you were talking about Hunter Thompson,
he's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. You know, the Gonzo journalist, very popular. Well, one of the questions that came up there and during the research is that he was actually involved in Bohemian Grove and actual snuff films and actual films of child abuse, child ritual, or even satanic ritual abuse.
I know that you're thinking, well, so they sacrificed 1,000 children over 100 years. How many is that? I mean, these guys are the people who are creating the wars, creating the depressions. These are the billionaire banksters, and you say, well, okay, we can lose 1,000. I mean, somebody has got to be calling for a dig. Somebody has to be looking for the bodies.
Well, the question is, have crimes actually been committed on the property? We don't know for a fact. We have, there are witness people who say that Johnny Gosh is a name, Bonacci is another name. We'll look up, we have some other names of children, and these are back, if you go back to Boys Town in Nebraska, and Franklin cover-up, you'll find out that there were actually prostitution rings of male prostitutes who were boys that were brought up in orphanages, and they were then sold to politicians at the highest level. We're talking White House, we're talking Congress, Senate, we're talking judges, we're talking church leaders, we're talking corporate billionaires, and these are boys that were programmed mentally, and you can look up Monarch programming, MK Ultra, that were basically put into bondage, slavery.
My question, Robert, is, are these guys who do these crimes going to let these boys back out in the street? Or are they going to eliminate the evidence? Are they going to dig a hole in the grove? Are they going to put them in some lime pit? What is going on? How long can this remain secret?
What in the mind of some individuals allows them to plot, scheme, to cheat, to steal, to rape, to rob, to kill, and justify this? Does this have anything to do, in your opinion, with the cremation of care?
It's called political poneurology. It's a science on the nature of evil adjusted for political purposes. And the one thing I want to tell to everyone's saying is that you should get this book and that you should study it.
In the book, does it indicate that the minds of these individuals who conduct these crimes are different? Is the physical brain different?
Well, there are...
like a Dr. Frankenstein's brain?
There are injuries or abnormalities of the brain which contribute to this. It would appear that a lot of people can just be indoctrinated into evil.
Actually, Dr. Frankenstein's intent was to do good. He wanted to make a superior being. When he took a look at the body, it wasn't like A, B, normal. He just didn't read it right. It was abnormal.
Instead of abnormal.
Rather than having an intelligent, bright individual, he put together a body with the mind of a criminal.
Well, it's very clear that evil is being planned, that evil is being promulgated, that we're all being indoctrinated into evil, that corruption is the mode that is being taught.
Many of the world's elite people gather here at least once a year, where they have a ceremony called the cremation of care. And this you can read about, you can see if you go to Alex Jones' Prison Planet, his site. Look for Bohemia Grove, or just look for Bohemia Grove on YouTube or Google Video. You'll find out all about it and what they're saying about it. You make up your own minds whether it be true or not. They have a ceremony here. There's a statue of Moloch, a Babylonian god, and they have a ceremony of worshipping the god. The actual cremation of care ceremony, which means that when they come away, presumably, they don't care about anything anymore. And I think you must agree with me that no matter what they tell us they do in this place, every year at this time, telling us that they're here just to let off steam out of the public eye, by their fruits shall ye know them. Whatever goes on in there, what comes out is not good. Their fruits are poisonous.
I don't know whether we should be doing a dig out there. It's a big 2,700 acres. Maybe we should just simply say, let bygones be bygones. So they killed a few people here and there.
Well, I guess I would ask the question, if I had a missing child, or if I knew somebody who had a missing niece or grandson or granddaughter, and they were missing, and I believed that they were being abused, they were being tortured, they were being sold into prostitution, slavery, or killed or added into some ritual sacrifice, should we just ignore that? Is that something that we should just let bygones be bygones?
Do we do a dig? Should we call upon the public to unearth some of these bodies and find out who they were? Or should we simply say, hey, let bygones be bygones?
Well, the problem is if people at the highest levels are the ones who are in charge of it, who's going to actually authorize it?
Well, look at this article. This is from China. This is just a pre-example. China's new lucrative business. Dead babies turn into stamina booster pills. This is just last week, August 5th.
You said what? Dead babies?
Yeah. They're grabbing all the aborted babies from China. They put them out in the sun. Los sacan al sol a los bebés. All right? They powdered them down. I mean, they grind them. Right? They grind them. Los muelen. And then they put them directly in these capsules. Te lo ponen directo el bebé en la cápsula. And it gives you a better stamina, sex drive, everything. You're participating in eating the sacrifice. The baby sacrifice, yes. It's the new thing. So these people from SBS in South Korea, they created a documentary where they're accusing Chinese pharmaceutical companies of selling dead baby pills as stamina boosters. They found fingernails, hair, heart tissue. They found everything inside these pills. This is happening right now. Yeah. But if you go to alexanderbachman.com, you can get the facts. You can get a flyer. Visit childrenofgod.com. It's a huge organization in the United States that's doing a great campaign to stop these people. But the problem is not in China. The problem is here.
Well, Anthony, I'm pretty new to all this conspiracy stuff, so I'm just sharing my beliefs from my independent study over the last 2 years. Up until 2 years ago, I would have never believed that any of this stuff exists. I wouldn't have believed in the Illuminati or the Council on Foreign Relations or the Bilderbergs or any of that other stuff. It's so far-fetched. It's so hard for people to believe that there are people out there who have little regard whatsoever for human life and feel that they're better than everybody else, and this planet is theirs for the taking. And no, I never imagined this at all.
Just go and research the word Cenomix, okay? Cenomix is a transnational company that creates flavor enhancement for products for transnational companies like Pepsi, Kraft, Nestle, Campbell's. And what they've been doing is that they grabbed kidney cells from human aborted fetuses. So they grab these kidney cell lines, las células sanguíneas de los riñones de bebés abortados, and in laboratory they replicate these cells and they put them in all your products. Lo ponen en los productos. What products are we talking about? Well, we're talking about your Gatorade. Drink some aborted babies. Yes, seriously. We're talking about Lay's chips. Yeah, that's why they taste so good, don't they? Pepsi products, all right? Tropicana juices, Dasani water, Minute Maid. We have to not consume anything from these companies. And tell them that we're not going to participate in their insane rituals.
Continent-wide cannot control a federal government with a banking system that prints money like it's paper. You can't even call it money anymore. Gold is money. Silver is money. Green dollars are not money. They're using inflation as a hidden tax to fuck the people. Prices go up. Do your wages go up? No. My wages didn't go up, but prices went up. Gas goes up, milk goes up, trains go up. How am I supposed to live? And this is all because our government prints too much money, starts too much wars, so they can sell their tanks, their guns, their missiles. Because that's all America exports. Is guns, missiles, and tanks. That's it. We need to bring production back to America. And the Federal Reserve. And the fractional banking system. When you invest $100 in a bank, they multiply that by 9 and they send it out 9 different ways. They don't just make money on the initial investment, they make it 9 times the initial investment. That's fake money that they printed out of thin air. Fiat money. It's a fiat currency. 1913, this country died. When we adopted the central bank and we got rid of sound money. We used to be able in 1913 to walk into a bank and redeem our dollars with gold. Can we do that anymore? No! What's the price of gold now? Almost $2,000. It's gone up $600 an ounce this year. It's gonna keep rising. And it's gonna keep rising as long as we have bailouts, as long as we have quantitative easing, as long as our government keeps spending our money. Every dollar the government takes in federal taxation is another dollar that they spend. Every time they spend money, that's your money that they send overseas. They bail out Morgan Stanley and then Goldman Sachs. When I fuck up, who bails me out? No one. Why should Goldman Sachs get bailed out? $700 billion in 08. And they want more now? They want more. That wasn't enough? You're gonna drain. There's not gonna be a middle class in 10 years. And the Federal Reserve. And the fractional banking system. And the Fed. Elect Ron Paul. And the wars. Ron Paul 2012. Sound money. Stop with the banksters printing money. Printing it, debasing our currencies. Driving up our prices. We don't need any more money in our economy. We got plenty in debt. No. And the Fed. And the fractional reserve system. And the wars. Get corporations out of our politics. Out of our politics.